Well, it was only a few short months ago when hopes were high that a retired colonel by the name of Harry S. Riley would bring millions of people to Washington and force the resignation of certain key individuals. And he had his list, and the list was long, and it started with Barack Obama himself. And that whole thing fell flat on its face. Unfortunately, it didn't go very far at all. And with us to talk about all that and more is Karen Smith. Karen was one of the lead organizers of the American Spring. Karen, are you there?
I am here, Mike. Thank you for having me on.
Well, all right, Karen. Now, what was your role in the American Spring exactly? Tell the people.
I was in charge of public relations for the group, and I got them on radio and got journalists to write about them in order to get more members and to stimulate interest in the movement.
Yes, and you contacted us, and we interviewed you about it, and we helped get the word out. We interviewed, not you rather, but the Colonel himself.
Colonel Riley.
Twice we had him on the show, and I must say he is a genuine hero, and I was very impressed with him. His integrity and his his heart was in the right place, I guess. But where did it go wrong?
I agree with you, Mike, that Colonel Riley is an honorable man, and his intentions were good. I think that in the very beginning he was overwhelmed with the response because he put his thoughts into words on a page on a website, and the response was enormous. He couldn't have foreseen that it would grow by 2,000 of people in such a short amount of time. And he was very, very hopeful, as was I, that this was going to be a success because he believed, as did I, that the people in numbers have an immense power to change things. I still believe that to this day. But the problem was Colonel Riley was not prepared for the response. He did not really foresee the thing coming to fruition. It was just an idea that he had had. So the group lacked leadership. It lacked direction. And he tried desperately to get together group leaders for each state and to get the states to work together to organize their own state. But there wasn't much plan. Once we got to Washington, what were we going to do? Stand outside the White House and yell at the walls? I mean, there never was a real idea of what happened once we got there. And there were thousands of keyboard cowboys who on paper and on their keyboards were definitely going to Washington. See you there. We're going to be part of this enormous movement.
Right.
But that never happened.
Yeah, we saw those comments too by the thousands. People were speaking with us in the comment sections on our YouTube videos and Facebook page. They were organizing, the carpooling and all this stuff. And the news footage out of Washington didn't look like it reflected that sort of enthusiasm, did it?
Not a bit of it. Not even a fraction of what they did. But I think the problem was, as it got bigger, Colonel Riley didn't want to be a leader. He said from the very beginning he wasn't the leader. He was the man who had the idea. Each person was a leader. They needed to make the decision and go and have their voice heard. So he appointed state leaders, and then he appointed a leader over the state leaders, an overall leader to direct them. And then some really questionable characters got involved, and they somehow got into leadership. And the state leaders started falling away because they didn't like the ideas that these people were bringing, and they didn't trust them very much because one of them was a Department of Defense contractor.
Wow.
And that didn't look very good to the people who were looking in from the outside and literally putting their lives on the line to go to Washington.
Right.
They started thinking that it was a trap.
Wow.
And then there were the more violent types who didn't think things could be changed by talking. They needed to be weaponized, and it needed to be an armed takeover. And there were stories of the militia surrounding D.C., not going into D.C. because it's illegal to be armed, but being on the outskirts and waiting for that first thing to go wrong. Now, I know that was true because I had certain militia leaders contact me to try and get hold of the leaders of the state groups. And I started getting nervous because if you had thousands of people, well, we were talking about 1 million or 3 million in D.C., there were bound to be agents provocateur in the crowd.
Right.
And it needn't have been one of our people that started the trouble, but trouble would have started. And if we had armed militia outside of D.C. waiting to come in and save the day, I just foresaw, I don't even want to think about it, what could have been caused there. So I think that the whole thing fell apart due to lack of a plan, lack of leadership, and the allowing the really far-right people to be extremely vocal and to stir up violence on their sides. And I think that is why so many people who were good people, who had taken off work, who were going to go there at their own expense, who were going to settle in for the long haul, backed out because they got scared.
Now, you bailed out early yourself because you contacted us and said, look, there's a bloodbath coming, I'm out, right?
Yes, I did. When I realized, that the colonel had no intention of staying the duration.
Okay.
Nobody leads their troops into a battle and then goes home.
Oh.
And leaves them behind. That upset my harmony terribly. And the whole talk of militia and violence, where we had said from the very start, this is a non-violent, unarmed, peaceful, bathed in prayer, basically armed with our Bibles and the Constitution effort. That I was good with that, but I wasn't good with firearms and people waiting for trouble, because when you get a big crowd together, there is going to be trouble.
Yes, and he was very clear up front. He didn't want any trouble. He just wanted trouble for the politicians that were ruining the country. He wanted them gone. He didn't want any bloodbath or any such thing. But you started to see signs that this was going to turn ugly, really fast. And you contacted us and you said, "Hey, look, this is going to go really bad, and I need you guys to know that I'm not supporting this anymore." So kudos to you for that, for realizing that it had turned from an honorable situation to what could have been a disgraceful display of hostility. So good for you. Now, you happen to be have some inside knowledge into a renewed effort in this regard, not with the same people, not with the same actors, but a different group altogether?
Absolutely. They went public on Facebook on Saturday. Their name is Operation American Freedom, and their date for marching on Washington is December the 15th. Now, I have spoken to their publicity person, and I get a very good feeling about this movement. They are organized. They have a plan. They have elected leaders that were elected by the group, so that it's not just somebody who popped out of nowhere and is going to cause dissent. They have constitutional sheriffs involved.
Wow.
They have a lot of veterans. They have lawyers. Apparently, they've put together charges that are going to be laid before they go to Washington. And at the moment, it's just a drive for numbers. They say that they've got members in all 50 states, which we did not have in Operation American Spring.
Right.
We had some very active states, but a lot of them just had nobody. They have members in all 50 states. Part of joining their group is the fact that you must be prepared to go on a field trip.
Right.
They have an open Facebook page where anybody can join and post anything, and then a sort of a layer under that where members are vetted before they're allowed to go. So they're not out there in public with a whole bunch of tinfoil hat people spewing all over the place, you know, and disgracing them before they even start. So I think they have a better chance of success, and I wish them the best of luck, because I really do believe that there is power in numbers, and the people need to rise up and say, listen, we've had enough. They just needed a good leader to do it.
And the colonel, he's not involved in this, right?
No, he's not.
Right. Who's leading it? Do you know?
I don't know. She didn't say, and I didn't want to pry too hard, because I have not applied to be a member. I made it very clear that I'm busy with other things. I couldn't be a leader or a person of their group. But she assured me that they have strategy meetings every day. They have a plan.
Wow.
And it's all sounded very good to me, because all the points where Operation American Spring fell on their face, they've covered.
Okay.
Now, their PR person was also in Operation American Spring in the early stages.
Oh.
But she was cleverer than me and saw the signs before I did and resigned,
right.
You know. And so she learned from that, and they obviously watched the whole thing. And the reason that the constitutional sheriffs withdrew their support of Operation American Spring was because there was no plan. They said if it's led by a military man always has a plan.
Right.
Or two plans, or even three.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no plan of what happened once we got to Washington. So they withdrew their support. I feel that if they have joined this movement, they must be fairly certain that there's a foolproof plan in place.
Right. And we'll get to some of your other goings-on. You're a busy lady. We'll get to some of that in a second. But that's Operation American Freedom, and that could be found on Facebook, right?
Yes, it can.
And I don't know. I suspect that if the Democrats are able to steal this election, which is coming up next week, and there's already evidence of fraud, by the way.
Terrible.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yes, people going and in pre-election voting, hitting the Republican ticket and having it come out as a Democrat vote. There's already some of that going on, and
at least 1,500 illegals registered to vote in certain counties. It's shocking.
It is, and if Nancy Pelosi is holding the gavel at the end of next week, there is going to be, I suspect the Facebook numbers on that particular Facebook page are going to reach a record
astronomical number.
I suspect that's going to happen, and so Operation American Freedom, if folks want to check that out, I'm definitely going to go check that out. So, Karen, what is your latest endeavor going on here? You are heavily involved with the goings-on in South Africa, is that not right?
Yes, I am, Mike. I have been involved in trying to draw attention to the genocide happening in South Africa for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. I've been in the States for 3.5 years, and since I got here, through Operation American Spring, I realized the power of the press and the power of the show host. Mm. And I had a huge contact list after Operation American Spring. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, the best thing to do with that is to put a voice and a face to the things that are happening in South Africa. So I gathered together a team of some South African people who are involved in the squatter camps, in the fight in South Africa, and we do as many shows as we possibly can to bring awareness to the genocide there, because there are only 3 million whites left in South Africa. And the 46, I got some latest figures today, we would say 46 people a day are being killed in South Africa. That includes blacks.
Right.
It's not just whites. But the murder rate of whites is shocking. 90,000 whites have been killed since the end of apartheid in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be killed in South Africa is not just a drive-by shooting as you have here. It means they wait for you inside your house for you to come home. So if it were a burglary, they would have burgled and gone. They wait for you in the house. They tie up the husband, rape the wife and daughters in inhumane ways, and force the husband to watch. And then he gets killed. But they get burnt with oil. They get burnt with hot irons. They get raped with broken bottles. It is too horrific to even think about. And this is a country that is not at war.
Right, and so then now this is all the result of the blacks taking over the land, and essentially they want to make it a chocolate country, don't they?
Yes, they do, but at the same time, they make it very, very difficult for the whites to leave. There is a kind of a youth party called the Economic Freedom Fighters, who got into Parliament for the first time in the elections this year. They are led by a young firebrand called Julius Malema, and he campaigned on the honeymoon for whites is over. He is a friend of Robert Mugabe, Mad Bob Mugabe from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And you know what Mugabe has done.
Absolutely, sure.
And he has said if his people come into power, there will not be a white left to tell the tale.
Wow. Well, you're here telling the tale for them on their behalf, and we appreciate you doing that.
That's your life. I live there. I live there in a gated community with guards on the gate, nobody allowed in or out without phoning up to your house. And we were robbed. They came in through our roof and they robbed us. We luckily were not at home. Very luckily. 3 times I was robbed of everything, including the toilet rolls.
Wow.
They come with trucks and move you out.
Wow.
They watch you. My maid told me, she's a very good, loyal maid, and she loves me, so she won't be killing me. She'll be killing the neighbors, and the neighbor's maid will kill me.
Wow.
They just tell you straight out like that. You have no idea what it's like, Mike.
No, obviously
you just have no idea. When I wake up in the morning, and I don't even have a fence around my house, I say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, and please look after my mom and brother today. Yes. Don't let them die like my dad.
Right.
You know, Americans, as bad as they think things are here, they have no idea, Mike. And I can't sit back and keep quiet about those things that are happening because it is terrible. Those people are going to be wiped out. They are. You know, if this guy was telling about Malema, he has a huge following of the disaffected black youth who are unemployed, uneducated, and don't have a future. If he manages to ask Zuma, who's bad enough, but if he asks him, like he helped Zuma to ask the previous Mbeki president, those people, it will only take 48 hours to kill them all, Mike.
Wow.
And that's scary. And the world will turn around and say, okay, what happened? Because nobody will talk about it.
Well, you're talking about it, and we will give you every opportunity that we have available to do that, Karen.
Thank you so much, Mike, because after what happened to my dad, and after what has happened to my entire family, I am passionate about this thing. The world must do something. Give them refugee status. Why are we bringing in Ebola victims and Muslims and Syrians and who knows what? And we can't help the South Africans? Why not?
Yes, why indeed. What are your thoughts on Oscar Pistorius? Were you watching all of that?
Yes, I did. I watched all of it, and well, my husband stopped me watching TV because I wanted to shoot the American commentators. Because you cannot apply American standards to something that happened in South Africa.
Right.
you had these pundits on TV saying, well, you know, the law says this and that, and we can't believe the following. And I would go red in the face and have steam coming out my ears because I thought of this man.
Uh-huh.
He has no legs.
Right.
So he's taken his legs off and he's in bed for the night.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I left South Africa just over 3 years ago. I know that you sleep with both ears open and one eye open.
Wow.
You never sleep. You live behind 8-foot walls with electrified wire on the top. You have electronic gates. You have burglar alarm systems. You have burglar bars on every window, and you generally have a panic button attached to a security company. So, but even those things do not keep you safe. So this man is already at an enormous disadvantage. And you live in fear. You live in fear in South Africa. If you stop at a stop street or a traffic light in South Africa, you are surrounded by hawkers who want to sell you candies or a scarf or are they reaching into your, if you're stupid enough to drive with your windows open, they're reaching in and taking your handbag, or they will pull you out of the car and steal your car with your children still in it. So in South Africa, you live in a heightened state of fear all the time. Now, I'm thinking about this poor man. He's in bed, it's late at night, he hears noises in his house.
Right.
Your immediate thought is, this is your last night on earth. That is the first thing you think.
Okay.
You know you're going to be killed. You know, without a second's hesitation, they are there to kill you. So this man is terrified.
Uh-huh.
And he then goes in search of the source of the noise.
Right.
And he finds his bathroom door closed. Now, nobody has said whether he had his legs or not at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But think about that man in a state of abject terror and so unable to protect himself. So he shot through the bathroom door. Now, that is one scenario.
Right.
I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened in that house that night. But I feel that the world needs to know that white South Africans live in terror. And you just cannot apply the same rules that you apply in American courts to people in South Africa. Because you don't know that fear.
Right. Do you think that the judge was fair? Because, I mean, let's face it, he really, in a real world scenario, he really only got 10 months in prison. Do you think that was fair?
Well, no, I don't think that was fair. Whether it was homicide, intentional or culpable homicide, he killed an innocent person.
Yes.
So I'm not on his side.
Right.
I'm just trying to paint a picture of what he may have been thinking at that moment.
Wow.
I'm not on his side. And no, it wasn't fair. But do you really think that privileged, rich, successful white man would last more than a week in prison?
Yeah, well, that's yet to be seen. I'm sure we're going to hear all about what happens to him in jail. What are the jail numbers in South Africa? What's the percentage white to black?
I would say 1% possibly of white.
Oh, my goodness, really?
Yes, and there are stories coming out of South Africa that police will pick people up, white men, up on the street for very little reason and throw them in jail overnight to be raped.
Right.
Now, the prison population in South Africa, 95% of them have got AIDS.
Wow. So he's in for just a nightmare in prison then. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's, look, it can't be helped. He did wrong. He killed somebody.
Right.
He killed a very innocent, sweet young girl. And whether it was on purpose or whether it wasn't is beside the point. She is dead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he deserves to be punished.
Right.
But I don't,
I've
I don't
wound
know
you
what
up
to
here.
say.
I've wound you up here. I'm sorry. I surprised you with that question. You've done a great job painting a picture for what things are like, what life is like in South Africa, and and I don't know. I guess people will begin to think differently about the whole case. I mean, it really does give us food for thought. The circumstances surrounding his life as a white man there, always living in fear of being killed or robbed or both, and you know, it does paint a very different picture for what was happening there. Now, he did kill an innocent woman, and he's going to go do some time in prison, and it looks like it might be a little trip through hell for him, 10 months in that sort of situation. But I appreciate you coming on and explaining things, explaining what went down with American Spring, the coming new revised Redux version of American Spring, and giving us a glimpse into South Africa. Karen Smith, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. You've been listening to PP Simmons Radio. My name is Mike Shoesmith. More to come. Stay tuned. We'll see you next time.